Welcome to episode 3 of La Trenza. This time we're coming to you right before bedtime with one of our family classics, Froggy Gets Stressed. Zia, how does it make you feel that we're about to read this book?
Good, because I love Froggy Gets Stressed.
What is it that you love about this book?
I love the part when Froggy's mom says, "Froggy, you forgot to put on your underwear."
That's a really good part of this book. How many times do you think we've read this book together as a family?
Probably like 100 times, because
Right.
we all love it.
Right, we all do love it, so it never gets old though, right?
Yeah, never gets old.
Okay, awesome. So we're going to go ahead and read this book together. Hope you enjoy it.
Froggy Gets Stressed.
By Jonathan London, illustrated by Frank Remkowitz.
It was cold. Froggy woke up and looked out the window. "Snow, snow," he sang. "I want to play in the snow."
"Go back to sleep, Froggy,"
said his mother.
"Don't you know frogs are supposed to sleep all winter? Wake up when the snow melts."
"No, no," cried Froggy. "I'm awake, awake. I want to go out and play in the snow." So Froggy put on his socks, zup, pulled on his boots, zup, put on his hat, zat, tied on his scarf, zwit, tugged on his mittens, zum, and flopped outside into the snow. Flip, flop, flop.
"Froggy!"
called his mother. "What?" yelled Froggy.
"Did you forget to put something on?"
Froggy looked down. "Oops," cried Froggy. "I forgot to put on my pants." He flopped back inside. Flop, floop, flop. Tugged off his mittens, untied his scarf. Took off his hat, pulled off his boots. He left his socks on and slipped his pants on. Zip. Then pulled on his boots. Zup. Put on his hat. Zat. Tied on his scarf. Zwit. Tugged on his mittens. Zum. And flopped back outside into the snow. Flop, flop, flop.
"Froggy!"
called his mother. "What?" yelled Froggy.
"Did you forget to put something on?"
Froggy looked down. "Oops," he cried. "I forgot to put on my shirt."
"And your coat,"
added his mother. He flopped back inside. Flop, floop, flop. Tugged off his mittens, untied his scarf, took off his hat. He left his pants, boots, and socks on, and buttoned up his shirt. Zut, zut, zut. Then he snapped on his coat, snapped, snap, put on his hat, zat, tied on his scarf, zwit, tugged on his mittens, zum, and flopped back outside in the snow. Flop, bloop, flop.
"Froggy!"
called his mother. "What?" yelled Froggy.
"Did you forget to put something on?"
Froggy looked down. He had on his mittens, he had on his scarf, he had on his socks, his coat, he had on his shirt, he had on his pants, he had on his boots, he had on his socks. He reached up. Yep, he had on his hat. What could be missing?
"Your underwear!"
His mother laughed. "Oops," cried Froggy, looking more red in his face than green. He flopped back inside. Flop, flop, flop. Tugged on his mittens, untied his scarf, unsnapped his coat, unbuttoned his shirt, unzipped his pants, pulled off his boots, took off his socks. He left his hat on and slipped his long johns on with a zap of elastic. Then he put on one sock, zoop, pulled on one boot, zup, tugged on one mitten, zum, started to tug on the other and let it drop and said, "I'm too tired," and went back to sleep.
Good night, Froggy.
Good night. I hope you had a good time. Sleep tight.
The frog was an animal revered by our Mesoamerican ancestors of Turtle Island. The Chorti Maya used the four-cornered frog to represent the four-directional celestial grid, with the mouth at the center or fifth direction, otherwise referred to as the Milky Way. Monument 9 from Chalcatzinco depicts its inclusion into the Chorti Maya architecture. The Maya prepared bufo marine toad venom extract to use in ritual ceremony and practices of science skywatching. These are things you can research and share to make books like Froggy Gets Dressed culturally relevant. So that was a lot of fun to read. The book came to our home family library when Mateo turned 3 and one of my mom's neighbor friends gifted it to him. I guess the voice of Froggy's mom was born as an interpretation of the woman who gave us the book. It's always fun to make books come alive by building out characters and playing around with the language. And yes, Froggy is fun to read along to, but there's a problem when you're more likely to see a main character in a book who is a frog or an animal or a truck or even a bug than a kid of color. And so this 2015 infographic created with data from the Multicultural Publishing Statistics compiled by the librarians at the University of Wisconsin-Madison School of Education Cooperative Children's Book Center, or CCBC, shows that American Indian, First Nation peoples, Chicano Latinos, Black African Americans, and Asian American Pacific Islander and Arab characters are less likely to be stars of children and young adult literature than Euro-American characters or characters depicted as trucks, animals, and other personified non-human characters. While this 2018 version of the infographic shows improvement in representation since 2015, the creators of the image added cracks in the mirrors of the kids of color to illustrate the continued misrepresentation of the books based on kids. The quantity of books may have gone up, but it isn't all good news, as that doesn't necessarily indicate accuracy and quality in the titles and in the topics and themes. We made a deliberate decision to crack a section of the children's mirrors to indicate what Debbie Reese calls funhouse mirrors, and Ebony Elizabeth Thomas calls distorted funhouse mirrors of the self. Children's literature continues to misrepresent underrepresented communities, and we wanted this infographic to show not just the low quantity of existing literature, but also the inaccuracy and uneven quality of some of those books. When looking at what stories are told and how the world is made sense of, we are facing two major problems here. One, we are misrepresented. We are misrepresented in film, on television, in literature, on the nightly news, and in books of history. The other is that we are underrepresented. The size and scope of our fingerprint upon the history of this country is rarely discussed, and when it is usually minimize it, compartmentalize it, and separate it from the general reading of the national history of the country. In the short term, we need independent presses so that our voices can be heard. The small presses we build today must become the major presses of tomorrow, so that both of these problems become things of a distant past. Some presses that you should check out and support are Flower Song Books, Swimming with Elephants Publication, Nomadic Press, and of course Cinco Puntos Press. If you saw episode 2, you caught the story of Colors and saw how this El Paso-based publication house saved it from being banned. Overall, I just want you to remember that we currently have a very strong movement towards ensuring that youth of color see themselves in the curriculum here in the state of California and beyond, of course. But your simias shouldn't have to wait for culturally relevant cuentos and lessons to come to them at school. You are their most powerful teacher, and La Trenza will help you weave together stories, art, music, and much, much more. Thank you for watching, and have a good night.